Yo, what is up everyone? This is OJ over here from PlayerEssence and welcome to another PE news video. Today we've got two awesome topics for you guys, a little bit longer discussions here, two amazing good things just here, just feel good stories. One of them, of course, as you're seeing the title here, is technically Melee HD. Yes, Super Smash Bros. Melee HD. Virtual Console Edition. It will be running in HD, of course, via emulation. And then another one, we have Shuhei Yoshida, the big man over at Sony, praising the Nintendo Switch, kind of like how he praised the Wii U, but saying how he feels that it's good that it's more of a traditional console. Nintendo's kind of getting back to that convention, which made them popular in the first place as far as with the original Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, N64 started to get a little crazy, then GameCube, then Wii, and we know the rest. But yes, Shuhei Yoshida, once again, saying some great things about Nintendo as he is a fan. And of course, we've got some big virtual console news with GameCube games coming to the Nintendo Switch, according to a report from Eurogamer. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So Digital Spy recently sat down with president of Sony Worldwide Studios, Shuhei Yoshida, to talk about PlayStation stuff, of course, but also with Nintendo and what they're doing with the Nintendo Switch. So here's what he said, that he is a Nintendo fan. He actually has two Wii U's, plays Mario Kart and stuff with his daughter, but he loves that Nintendo's adopting a more conventional approach and thinks that Nintendo will kind of carve out their own niche rather than necessarily compete head-to-head with Microsoft and Sony, and I have some thoughts on that after I go over this. So here's the question from Digital Spy. 2017 will see the launch of another new console, Nintendo's Switch. What do you think of it, and where do you see it sitting in the console ecosystem? Shuhei Yoshida responds with, I think it's a very unique system. It's very interesting that they've designed the system to work well with more conventional games in terms of inputs and buttons, so I think it's good for core gamers, and their marketing message focused on that. Next question from Digital Spy. Do you still see Nintendo as a competition in the terms of hardware sales, or do they now exist in a completely different market? Yoshida responds with, I think they're going to cover a new market for themselves. Next, Yoshida went on to talk about Nintendo's mobile strategy and how Sony is also looking into smartphone gaming, backed up by basically news of Everybody's Golf, Wild Arms, and Arc the Lad all coming mobile. So here's what Digital Spy had to say. Nintendo are also making big moves into mobile gaming. Super Mario Run comes out soon, and Pokemon Go was a success story of the year for mobile. Is this an area where Sony will be looking to move into more? Yoshida responds with, not like Nintendo is, but the mobile is a great tool to connect with our fans and might be a good place to allow new gamers or non-gamers to become familiar with our IPs. So we look at it as opportunities to make use of the device. So really interesting stuff that he says here, especially with mobile, because Sony was actually really into the whole mobile market before Nintendo was, really. It's just that they failed. They didn't have the success Pokemon Go had. They didn't have the success Miitomo had. They didn't have the success with their PlayStation phone. They didn't have the success. So they've done so much more mobile things. So it's interesting to him to say, or at least to hear him say, well, not like Nintendo as well. They kind of already tried to do like what Nintendo did, and they actually failed. So I can understand why he's just trying to pull back and just say, hey, we're just going to do some things here. We're not going to have the type of, what Nintendo's doing, because obviously Nintendo's IPs are far more valuable than Sony's IPs. That's just a fact. Pokemon, Mario are just more valuable, more recognizable, more people know them, so they're going to do better on mobile than if Sony was to put out an Uncharted or something like that, which is more focused towards those core gamers that really aren't going to expand much out there. So I do understand what he's saying there. But moving on to what he said about the Nintendo Switch, Shuhei Yoshida, he's obviously said good things about Nintendo in the past, and he's saying good things here. Although I do think that he's completely deflecting the potential impact of what the Nintendo Switch can do to their console sales in addition to Microsoft and Sony. Yes, you could say it is going to be a completely different market, but I don't think necessarily to say that like the Nintendo 3DS or even handheld gaming doesn't interfere with sales here and there based on just money to spend, entertainment dollars to spend, what can people afford? So the more options that are out there necessarily means that you can take away. Now, obviously Sony has had massive sales with the PlayStation systems, with PS4, so I can understand why he's saying this, like, hey, it's going to have their own market, it's portable, so that can also be 3DS, and we're not really seeing the impact of 3DS on PS4 sales, at least not with our sales numbers. We don't really see that there's any correlation, so I understand that. But he has to understand this, is that this is going to be a home console as well. It is going to have console style games, especially if it's getting stuff like Dark Souls Trilogy, like we heard about that. It's going to get stuff like Skyrim. There's going to be other games that come to PS4, Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch, especially if you see Kingdom Hearts and if you see Final Fantasy VII Remake and if you see some of these other games that are going to be on there. We already know, based on what the Nvidia CEO said, that the Nintendo Switch can be able to handle these ports from PS4 and Xbox One and PC easily, so you're going to see some developers move over there. So I don't think necessarily it's going to be a completely new market for themselves. I definitely think that they're going to try to get some of those PS4 and Xbox fans with what they're doing there, just because you can hook it up to your TV and you can play games like Skyrim. You are going to be able to play games that are on PS4 and Xbox One. You're going to be able to play those on there. So once you have that, that's definitely in competition, just like PC's in competition, just like Apple's in competition for your dollars, just overall gaming dollars and mind share and time that you spend. The thing is, people need to realize that it's also about time. It's also about what you're spending your time doing, the marketing message behind that. People want to get you on their system, so it doesn't matter where you are in the gaming industry. People still want to get you, and Shuya Yoshida knows that, but I do think that he's being a little bit more on the cautious side, especially considering this system isn't even out yet. So I understand what he's saying, but I do disagree with him saying it's just going to cover completely a new market for themselves and not necessarily in their market. I do think that it's competition, and I know for a fact that Sony's closely watching this and saying, well, what can we do to potentially counteract it? Just like they counteracted the Wii U before it first launched with the PS Vita and the PS4 and what they were saying beforehand, the marketing messages. I'm pretty sure they're counteracting, or at least thinking of ways to counteract that before the system does launch. All right, and moving on to some more big news. It seems like Eurogamer has another leak, and I actually knew about this beforehand. I just had to keep quiet about it, but yes, Nintendo Switch will be able to play GameCubes via the Virtual Console service, with at least 3 separate games being confirmed at this point. Another one in the works. Eurogamer says that they have 3 separate sources that have confirmed this, so the GameCube support is already being tested, it's working, and they understand that there are the games, 3 games being prepared for it. So those games are Super Mario Sunshine and Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now, we'll talk about Melee in a little bit because that is actually huge. So the Wii, Wii U, and 3DS all offered Virtual Console, but none of them really had the GameCube, of course. So it's, well, the Wii had the GameCube. You could play GameCube games. Well, they don't know really like the total number of GameCube games or anything like that. They've just heard that there will be some type of upgrade program similar to that on the Wii U. So if you've already have a Virtual Console NES game, it can be upgraded for a small fee rather than buying it again at full price, which I don't like. I wish you could just transfer it over. I really wish Nintendo would get rid of that. I don't even like the whole small fee thing. They're making baby steps, but this is one too many baby steps at this point. They need to make sure that they just get it going forward, that you can just transfer it over at no price instead of having people rebuy the same games, even if it's for a small fee. There's also news from here saying that the Virtual Console will be engineered by the Nintendo European Research and Development, which is NERD. That's the studio behind the recent NES Mini micro console, which is sold out pretty much everywhere, and people are buying it for crazy prices. And people say that the emulation on that is actually better than some of the Wii U's emulation as far as the games go, and that's really good. I like the fact that they are going to try to, employ them, because they've done a fantastic job with the NES Mini as far as the emulation there, and I think that they can do, once again, a good job with the Nintendo Switch. Now, here's another thing. There is Animal Crossing from the GameCube that's being tested for a potential release, but it's not quite ready yet at this point. Plus, there's going to be some more NES classics like Donkey Kong, Mario, and Zelda, just so you can play as well, at least within Animal Crossing. So that's what they're saying here. They're saying that Animal Crossing, the original from the GameCube, you can play those classic NES games, and all of those games will be playable on the Animal Crossing Virtual Console port of that. So that's actually really cool. It can save you some money, not having to rebuy some of the old games you already have if you buy Animal Crossing on the Virtual Console for the Nintendo Switch, which is the GameCube version. Nintendo is also planning, or at least looking into, the Nintendo Switch supporting the Wii U's GameCube controller adapter peripheral, which is really cool, but yet a final decision has not been made, but I think that will happen. I think if you're going to have the GameCube Virtual Console and you're going to have Melee, you better have that support for the GameCube controller. You better just have it. So there are also some more news here saying that the Switch's increased power from the Wii U is certainly a factor. The Digital Foundry team also ran some tests and emulation as far as from the Dolphin emulator to the NVIDIA Tegra X1 mobile technology, and the chipset does work with the Switch, or at least they've seen that there's some correlations there, so it's okay. And there's multiple reasons why Nintendo's going to do this, guys. I don't think I have to tell you how big the Super Smash Bros. Melee scene is, and it's the same reason why I said there needs to be a version of Super Smash Bros. Within the first year on the Wii U because of the competitive scene. Esports is a big driver in this industry. Nintendo cannot afford to say, okay, we're gonna wait a year and a half to almost 2 years to release a brand new Smash Bros. Game that's probably going to look very similar to the Smash Bros. Game on the Wii U. Why even do that? Just take the Wii U game, spiff it up a little bit, fix the problems with the online, add some new characters, which there's rumors that they're going to do that as well, add some new content in there, fix online like I said, put some stuff in there to spiff it up, and put it out there on the Nintendo Switch so people can get their hands on it and the competitive community can buy Nintendo Switch consoles early, because as soon as that new console comes out, they're going to switch over. One of the big things with Melee HD, well, technically, kinda, it's going to be an HD, but it's still the old GameCube game. Melee coming over is now that all those tournament guys that have been crying for a new Melee game, that have been crying really for a Melee HD, they're going to get it, and they're going to have reason to purchase this Nintendo Switch so they don't have to lug around the CRTVs anymore. They can use the lagless monitors, and they can plug that Nintendo Switch in. They can play against each other, warming up. You can bring your own Nintendo Switch and you can play against someone else right there, so you don't have to necessarily worry about setups as much. You can play right there. I know you might need a GameCube peripheral adapter thing, but most of them will probably just play right there on the system just to warm up, and then if there's other places to where you can play to warm up with the GameCube adapter, you can do that. But it brings huge potential to the Smash Bros. Scene, because people still play, as far as the tournaments go, they still use Nintendo Wii consoles and put the GameCube disc in there. So all those tournament dudes bought a Wii just so they can play a GameCube game on there for the tournament scene. It's going to be the same thing with the Nintendo Switch. Now that you have that upgraded technology, you can play on the lagless monitors, you can use an HDMI cord and not have to put the Wii and all that stuff around. That's going to be so much better for these tournament guys, and I'm happy for them because now they're all kind of happy. I've seen all of the Smash Bros. Players saying, oh, Melee HD is pretty much here. Melee HD is going to be here with this news, and that's going to be big for sales as well. Yes, you can talk about it not being the majority. I know the majority of people who like Smash Bros. Aren't competitive players, but you can't sit here and not say, when you have hundreds of thousands of people playing and watching, and you have major sponsors from Mango and Armada and Mewtwo King that promote this game, that it's not a good idea to have that, at least a version for them to play very early in the Nintendo Switch's lifespan so they can pick up that system and get more console sales. The Wii U missed that, and none of those smashers brought the Wii U unless they were actually like a hardcore Nintendo fan and wanted to play Nintendo Land and stuff. None of them had a reason to actually purchase the Wii U until Smash Bros. Came out. That's way too long. Get them going from the very beginning. That's going to be very good, and it can finally unite the Smash Bros. Community. There's a big divide, necessarily not unite in a way to where people won't bash Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and all that, and Smash 4, whatever you want to call it, but the fact that you're going to have one system to play under. You want to play Melee on there, it's one system. You want to play the new Smash Bros. Games on there, it's one system. So that's going to be really good, just overall for the betterment of the Smash Bros. Community. I know some of you guys probably don't understand how good this is, but this is really good, and it was just like it was with the Wii days. With the Wii days, people were still playing Melee, and people were playing Brawl competitively. You just brought one system, you took a lot less setups and everything was fine there. It didn't unite people just because of how hectic and how crazy and how unsatisfied people were with Brawl over Melee and everything that they changed, but at least it was cool for the tournament organizers to have to just bring one system or one type of system and not have to worry about bringing so many different setups, like how they did with the Wii U and with the Wii, with Super Smash Bros. Melee and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. So this is great stuff, guys. I can't wait, and I'm probably going to start playing this a little bit competitively as well, because that's one of the big things that kind of held me back a little bit, was hooking up the Wii or doing the whole Dolphin emulator thing on there. I didn't really feel like doing all that, but I will totally be down to play a virtual console version of Super Smash Bros. Melee and just kind of practice there first and foremost. I think that'll be exciting, especially a portable version. Lunch breaks, here I come. So good stuff there. Really excited. Let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of you guys are hyped about this news. Let me know what you think about the Virtual Console, GameCube, what Yoshida had to say about Nintendo Switch and everything. I would love to hear your thoughts. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and hit that like button if you did like it. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for more news, reviews, trailers, tips, and tricks, and everything in gaming. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace.